Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Have you ever noticed that women with inferiority complexes love pretending that being dark skinned is somehow a handicap? I say this on my channel all the time. Being dark skinned it's not a social disability. Okay. Dark skin is not a disability. There are millions of dark skinned women with pretty privilege. Here on this channel, we have thousands of dark skinned women who also have been accused of benefiting from isms. Has anyone ever noticed that unambiguous content creators, they love pretending that dark skinned women with curly hair don't exist? They love pretending that dark skinned women with keen features don't exist. Or if they do, they will try to make those dark skinned women feel like their skin tone is going to hold them back. But I want to react to this video because it's called Society's Beef with Dark Skinned Women. Imagine being so insecure to the point where you think that society as a whole, 7 billion people or however many people are on this earth, imagine thinking that you literally come out of the womb and you've got 7 billion people automatically beefing with you. How low does your self esteem have to be to think like that? But let's get into the video.
Being a woman of color, especially being black and a dark skinned woman, a lot of the dark skinned girlies can note this, but feeling like we aren't beautiful because of our skin color is a huge thing growing up.
Okay, so she says feeling like we aren't beautiful because of our skin color is a huge thing. So the social climbing mistake that she's making here is grouping in other dark skins with herself. And it's like, no, just because your mother did a bad job at teaching you you were beautiful, just because your environment did not support or uplift your skin tone, does not mean that the dark skin community as a whole thinks that they're not beautiful because of their skin. So I've noticed that is social climbing mistake number 1 is associating with women like this, women who have this sort of mindset where they're literally stereotyping dark skin. This woman just stereotyped dark skinned women. She literally just said out of her mouth, "Oh, dark skinned women, yeah, this is a huge thing where they're taught that they don't like their skin tones." Okay, so no, that's your internalized stereotype of dark skinned women. You think that if somebody's dark skinned, they don't like their skin tones. And now you're on an interview with what appears to be a non black woman. I don't remember if this person, yeah, so now she's on an interview with a non black woman shouting from the mountaintops and associating dark skin with insecurity. So that's social climbing mistake number 2.
Girlies can note this, but feeling like we aren't beautiful because of our skin color is a huge thing growing up. I disliked being as dark as I was, and
Whose responsibility is it to teach a dark skinned girl that she's beautiful? Because I've noticed that that's another talking point that I hear on the quote unquote black, unambiguous dark skin black empowerment channels. They'll say things like, "Oh, well, little girls need to be taught that they're beautiful." Whose responsibility is it to teach a little black girl that she's beautiful? Is it the media's responsibility? Because I'm hoping that if you have children that you're not raising your kids in front of the TV. So anytime I see a young dark-skinned black girl with low self-esteem, I'm instantly going to blame her mother. Because I feel like as a little girl, your mother is supposed to be kind of the first role model, she's supposed to be the first one to teach you about femininity and to teach you your worth. But I've noticed that there are a lot of horrible parents. I noticed there are a lot of like degenerate, like dumb parents who don't actually raise their children. So they just allow their child to sit in front of the TV and they just allow their child to sit on their phones, and that's how their children are raised. It's not Hollywood's responsibility to raise your little girl. It's not Hollywood's responsibility to raise a child. When I was growing up, I was extremely sheltered because I come from a Christian background. So I wasn't allowed to listen to secular music. I wasn't allowed to watch TV, especially if it was rated PG-13 and above. I wasn't even allowed to watch that stuff because my parents cared about me building a healthy sense of self. They cared about me building a view of myself that was not sexualized, especially my dad. I did come from a two-parent home. So my parents, they actually cared about me viewing myself in a positive light. So they sheltered me from over sexualized images. They sheltered me from like Boys in the Hood, those types of movies where it shows black women in a negative light where it shows them as like being ratchet and stuff like that. I wasn't even allowed to watch that kind of stuff. So, my question for the people who think that little black girls having low self-esteem and they don't feel beautiful, okay, my question for you is whose responsibility is it to make a little girl feel beautiful? Because it's not the TV's responsibility. That's an idiotic talking point. Hey, I have low self-esteem because of TV. Sis, it's not Warner Brothers Productions' responsibility to build your self-esteem. That's not why they created Hollywood, sis. They created Hollywood and they created movie and TV and all that stuff so that they can make money from being filmmakers. Okay? That's just their way of making money. That's called entertainment. It is not the entertainment industry's responsibility to be your child's therapist. And so that's already social climbing mistake number 3. Like within 22 seconds, this black woman has already revealed 3 social climbing mistakes that come from her personal background. Any woman who tells me that she feels like she has low self-esteem because of the media, she had bad parents. I mean, I said what I said. I said what I said because it's not the media's responsibility to be your therapist. Netflix is not your therapist. Instagram is not your therapist. BET is not your therapist. So any child under the age of 18 who has low self-esteem, I instantly blame their parents. If it's a boy, I'm going to blame the father. If it's a girl, I'm going to blame the mother.
I was definitely made fun of it and bullied a lot in high school because of it and treated a certain way. I've grown.
Okay, so she says that she was made fun of and bullied and treated a certain way. She doesn't go into detail about what it like how she was treated, but hopefully she will. So she was bullied in high school. I'm assuming she's saying because of her skin tone. What race do you think bullied her in high school? And also, this ties into my talking point. I've noticed a pattern where a lot of unambiguous women, when they talk about bullying and not feeling beautiful, it's literally revolving around the media and like school or men, usually boys and school and stuff like that. So it's male centered or Hollywood centered. So this is why I say that a lot of the women who have deep insecurities about their complexions and stuff, they'll try to blame light-skinned women or the media, it's always someone else's fault. They're never addressing their own internalized perception of why they're allowing those things to make them insecure. But let's continue.
Grown to fully obsess with my skin color and obsess with the fact that I'm dark and it's beautiful and melanin is so gorgeous, and also just POC in general. I think women of color, we're so hard on ourselves. We want to blend in so bad. It took me so long.
Notice how she says, women of color, we're so hard on ourselves. We want to blend in so bad. Like, sis, who's we? I'm a woman of color. I don't want to blend in. I actually enjoy standing out. I love being exotified. I love when I look different than other people. I love when people give me special attention because I look different than them. I don't mind being in a room full of white people and I'm the only person of color. In fact, I enjoy using tokenism to my advantage if necessary. So, who is she talking about when she says we, us women of color, we're just so hard on ourselves? Like, no, that's you that's hard on yourself. That's you that's a victim, sis.
I used to wear so many hair pieces and straighten my hair and damage my hair, and now I wear my curly hair all the time because I'm obsessed with it.
Okay, so she says that she used to wear so many hair pieces and stuff. So notice how she's randomly tying in texturism. So I'm not sure if this is her natural hair or not. From my understanding though, most unambiguous monoracial dark-skinned black women have 4C hair. So I'm kind of curious as to why she specifically said curly hair. I mean, she didn't say anything about being mixed race. So I'm just going to assume that she is an unambiguous mono dark-skinned black woman with 2 black parents who most likely has an afro. So that's something else that I've noticed. It's kind of like this wig blindness, and I'm not going to accuse this woman of having that, but has anyone else noticed that? There will be women who are unambiguous with 4C hair, and then they will say, oh, yeah, my hair is curly. What are you talking about? Chili from TLC, she looks just like me. And it's like, no, sis, Chili from TLC has natural type 2 hair growing out of her head. You have worn so many hair pieces to the point where you associate your natural hair with being curly when it's actually an afro. There's a difference between hair that's curly versus hair that's an afro. So I'm very curious about this woman because she didn't mention being mixed or anything or having a background where, where ambiguity was a part of it. I just feel like if she actually did have naturally curly hair, that would have been brought up, or she would have said something about like maybe being pedestalized because of her curly hair. If you're a dark skinned exotical, you know this, right? If you're dark skinned and you have curly hair, usually you don't feel the need to wear tons and tons of hair pieces to the point where you're insecure, because if anything, people would be kind of pedestalizing it, or they would use terms like you have good hair. So that's what makes me think that this woman actually has wig blindness as well, because she's like, now I obsess over my curly hair. You mean your afro hair? And you now wear curly afro pieces to go in with the afro?
You have to be so comfortable and confident within yourself before you can step out and tell people to accept you how you want to be accepted.
Okay, so there's social climbing mistake number 4. She said you have to be confident before you can tell people to accept you how you want to be accepted. You'll never be able to get everyone to accept you. Okay? So within like 59 seconds of this video, this unambiguous dark skinned Black woman, she is already showing horrendous social strategy and horrendous social climbing skills. She literally thinks that if you're just confident, then suddenly everybody will accept you.
So, my experience as a dark-skinned girl in Miami has not been that bad.
Okay, so for those of you listening, the question on this next TikTok is being a dark skin in Miami as bad as they say it is?
But let me explain to you why I think that is. And as a disclaimer, I know that this is a very nuanced topic, so I'm only going to be talking about this in terms of like nightlife and going out and how I feel when I do those kinds of things. I'm going to show you some pictures of my friends and the friends that I normally go out with. As you can see, most of them are light skinned. When I go out with my group of friends, we are always treated really well.
So I noticed that she said most of my friends are light skinned, but when I look at the photos, her friends are non black. I mean, she's got a Latina here. She's got what appears to be almost like a more white leaning girl. So I don't know if she's just calling these mixed race women light skin, but do you see the hypocrisy even with that talking point? Because on one hand, you'll call yourself light skinned. Like if you're an exotical, you'll call yourself light skinned, then people will say, you're not even black, you're biracial. Biracials aren't black. Or, you're a Latina, you're a non-black Latina, you're a Maria, you're Ling Ling. They'll call you all these racist names. But then here we've got an unambiguous Black woman calling these 3 women, she's calling these women quote unquote light skinned. And she's even calling this woman light skinned who appears to be non black. So it's like, which one is it? Does light skin mean that you are not black and you're some other race? Or does light skin mean you have 2 black parents? Because you know how, like, whenever you call yourself light skinned, people will be like, no, you have to have 2 black parents, and then you have to like pass a paper bag test, and then I have to see pictures of your parents. But when it's an unambiguous person who doesn't think that a lot of light skinned people will be watching, she's calling people light skinned who are not even within the black community at all. Right? That's hypocrisy number 1. But anyway, she's saying that she gets treated better because she hangs out with people who are non dark skinned.
As you can see, most of them are light skinned. When I go out with my group of friends, we are always treated really well. We get into wherever we want to go. We're approached by lots of men, things like that. But would I receive the same treatment if all of my friends were dark skinned? The answer is no.
Okay, so she's saying that when she goes out with the friends that she just showed, that they all get treated well. So you don't think it has anything to do with the fact that all your friends are pretty? You guys have pretty privilege. So that's not colorism. You're actually conflating colorism with pretty privilege. But I'm going to let her finish talking.
And I actually have an example of this when my cousins came to Miami. I went out with the 2 of them. They're both dark skinned. And we were not treated the same way. The treatment was blatant.
Okay, but were her dark skinned friends, did they have pretty privilege? Were they fat, old, young? Like what? Where did you go? Do you see how she's already not giving context and she's already associating a bad experience with the fact that, oh, it's because they were dark skinned?
Different and disrespectful, and we didn't even get into the club. So yes, colorism is very prevalent in Miami, and
So she said that they didn't get into the club, and so she's saying that it must be colorism in Miami. But notice how she didn't name any examples of actual colorism. Colorism is when you disparage someone based on their actual skin tone, no matter which definition of colorism you want to use. Um, so she didn't say that at the club that they said, "Hey, you know, we don't want you to get into the club because we don't like your skin tone." She didn't say that. She simply said when she went out with her other friends who have pretty privilege, I don't think it's actually the skin tone. I think it's just pretty privilege in general. They got into the clubs and they were treated well and they were approached by men. And notice how she randomly brought up men too. Notice how she was saying that she got treated well and men approached them. And then, like, when she was with the dark skinned girls, oh, they didn't get into the club. So therefore, it's colorism. Another thing that happens when it comes to clubbing is, first of all, clubs actually have a limit of how many people they can let into their venues. So that's number one. So there are plenty of reasons why people would not get into the club. So the fact that she does not name an example like, hey, I'm not letting you in because you are dark skinned and because you're a dark skinned Black woman and we don't want your skin tone to be seen. She didn't say any of that. She simply said, we didn't get in the club. Well, what time did you arrive to the club? Because if the line is too long or whatever, I mean, we've all been to clubs before. So if the line is too long, eventually they're going to stop letting people in. If the club closes at 2 a.m. and you're still standing outside at 1:30 and the venue is full, then you're not going to get in. That's not colorism. That is called not wanting to have a fire hazard. So they actually turn people away at the door when it comes to clubs. Like they'll turn you away and then you have to get off the sidewalk as well because that's actually a fire hazard. So notice how she's just automatically equating it to your failures were because of your skin tone. And also she's contradicting herself because she said that when she was with all of her friends, they got approached by men. Well, sis, you're dark skinned. So if those men who approached you guys, if they were colorists, they wouldn't have approached you, right? They wouldn't have approached your group because you're dark skinned and you're in the group. So you still got approached when you were with the other friends, and that's because you guys all had pretty privilege. So this means that when they did not let you in the club, that it was not colorism. You actually proved my point with your own story. When you hung out with the skinny girls who had their hair done and all that, and they looked like IG baddies, you guys got treated well and got approached by men. And then when you hung out with your dark skinned family members who you didn't even show pictures of, you guys didn't get into the club and you expect me to believe that it's just randomly because of colorism? And I'm not saying that colorism doesn't exist. I'm just saying that if you're going to accuse someone of being colorist, just make sure that it's actual colorism. Give me the proof. What quote, point fingers and name names. Say exactly what they said. Did they say, we don't want you to be in here because your skin tone is ugly? Or because, there's something wrong with your skin tone? No. But apparently you're required to let all dark skins into the club and let all dark skins into every section at all times, whether they paid for the section or not, whether they paid for the club or not. Otherwise, you're colorist.
Even being a dark skinned girl, being around all my light skinned friends, I can sometimes feel the different in treatment. Like, when someone's talking to your group, but you can feel that they're not talking to you, that kind of thing.
Okay, so then she says that it's colorist because when she's with her light skinned friends, they only talk to the light skins. So I don't know if she's talking about men or just people in general. Sis, I don't have to talk to you in order to prove that I'm not colorist. Like if somebody is walking up to a group of people and they happen to know the girls who are light skinned, or if your light skinned friends have a better personality than you, If they have better social skills than you, or they're more bubbly or confident or whatever, I'm naturally going to talk to them and make friends with them. That has nothing to do with complexion. That's more of a social privilege in terms of like your personality and charm. So, knowing how to use your charm to social climb or get free drinks or whatever, that's actually a different skill. That has nothing to do with skin tone. There are light-skinned women who have no friends and they're antisocial, and there are dark-skinned women who have tons of friends and they're very social. So the fact that she just equated, herself being some sort of introvert, it's almost as if she's equating her being an introvert or something to like people are colorist because oh, they talk to my friends in the group, the waitress at the bar or whoever's in this public social setting, they happen to talk to my other friends. That's not colorism. That's just called talking to human beings. So now we can't even talk to people who are light skinned. So if there's a dark skinned girl at the table and I'm friends with all the light skinned girls and I happen to not know the dark skinned girl, if I don't say, if I don't talk to the dark skinned girl as much as the other girls, then I'm suddenly a colorist? Do you see how incredible the victim mentality is? That's incredible to me. So now I have to go out of my way. This reminds me of the whole you don't speak to nobody. That's basically what she's saying. She's saying that the fact that people talk to my light skinned friends and they don't talk to me as much in a social setting, they ain't speaking to nobody. So they must be colorist because they didn't speak to me and they weren't as enthusiastic about me as they were about my friends. Sis, nobody owes you a conversation. People don't owe you a conversation because you're dark skinned. Just like how they don't owe another person a conversation because they're light skinned. If your light skinned friend has a better personality or they're bubbly and sweet, then yeah, maybe people feel more comfortable talking to them. So do you see how she gives no context? That's not colors. If I were to say, "Hey, I'm not going to speak to her because she is a dark-skinned woman and I don't like dark-skinned women's skin tone and blah blah blah." Okay, yeah, that's colorist. But simply being friendly towards a person who's light-skinned, you expect me to believe that that's due to colorism.
Even with my experience being approached by men, not to say that I don't get approached by men, but a lot of the time it's a lot of fetishization. It's a lot of, oh, hey, sexy chocolate, a lot of I love your skin. It's never normal. So
Okay, so now she is doing that social justice warrior thing where you can't even compliment her. Okay, wait. So you're telling me you're mad if people don't really talk to you and they talk to your light skinned friends because then they're not speaking to you. But then if they do talk to you, then they're fetishizing you. And then if they compliment your skin tone, if they go out of their way to compliment your skin tone, then they're fetishizing you. So do you see how she's already got a mindset of damned if you do, damned if you don't? I wouldn't feel comfortable befriending this woman myself because I would feel like I'm walking on eggshells. Like, okay, so I can't compliment her skin tone. I mean, obviously, I'm a girl, so I'm not going to say sexy chocolate, but like, I have friends who are dark skinned. So are you saying that I can't compliment my friend's skin tones and say, hey, your skin looks pretty? Is my dark skinned friend, is she going to think that I'm like trying to pander? Have you ever noticed that? A lot of darker skinned, unambiguous women with inferiority complexes, if you ignore them, you're colorist. But then if you are nice to them, then you're a panderer. So then it's like, okay, what is what am I supposed to do then? Even with my YouTube channel, if I say something positive about black women, I'm pandering. And then if I say something negative about a black woman, I'm a colorist and racist. So do you see how she actually just proved that she has this mindset? And she said that she doesn't like it if guys say, "Hey, look at your sexy chocolate skin." I personally love when people compliment my complexion. Um, Obviously, it's not like politically correct to compliment my complexion, but I like when people compliment my complexion. So it's like, okay, if you don't want men to compliment your complexion, don't get mad if they compliment your friend's complexion and not yours. Don't get mad if they compliment one of the light skinned girls from the earlier photo and they say, hey, look at your butter pecan skin tone. Hey, I like your beige skin tone. I like your yellow bone or butter pecan complexion. Just don't get mad if they compliment someone else and not you. Having an uptight personality is a very like detrimental thing in terms of social climbing, in terms of dating, in terms of social interaction. If people feel like they have to walk on eggshells, they're not going to want to talk to you.
So I don't want to say that being a dark skinned girl in Miami is bad because I really have had a good experience for the most part so far. But colorism is real, just like it is in any other city across the entire world. And there is some weird and messed up stuff that you might have to deal with when it comes to nightlife and things like that.
Hey guys, my name is Madge. I'm coming on here to just share
So this girl says her experience in Thailand as a dark-skinned woman. So this is a different girl talking about living in Thailand.
my experience as a dark-skinned woman in Thailand. Before I traveled, I searched all throughout TikTok, what is the dark skin experience here as a woman, solo traveling, and being dark skinned. And it was kind of hard for me to find. So that's why I'm coming on here to just enlighten people and explain how my experience was. I'd like to say that Chiang Mai was literally the best area I've stayed in while I was in Thailand. The people here are very respectful, people here are very kind, and the food, 10 out of 10. I'm saying this because my experience in Phuket and Phi Phi Islands almost made me leave Thailand. And that is because they were just some ignorant tourists. As soon as I got in the airport, people were just looking, laughing at me. And then, like, while I was walking through a night market,
Okay, so she's saying that her experience makes her want to leave Thailand because people are apparently looking at her and laughing at her. So, number one, anytime you go to another country or another region where people are not the same race as you, guess what? They're going to be ignorant. You know why? Because they're not the same race. And this is the talking point that I give to divestors all the time. I'm like, wait, so what are you going to do when you're with your white boyfriend and he does not really understand things about your hair, things about, people are naturally ignorant about what it's like to be you. Duh, because they're not you. So, of course, they're not going to understand maybe your fashion sense, maybe. And also, if you're throwing on top of this, like being in a totally different country, especially an extremely impoverished country or extremely impoverished cities where people are incredibly uneducated and they do not even have access to things like maybe Wi Fi, electricity, media. So, you're telling me that you expect them to understand what a rich, wealthy American, well, I don't know if she's American, but she looks like a first world country wealthy black girl. You expect people in an impoverished country to be as cultured as you? Is that how deep the inferiority complex is? That's an incredibly entitled, and that's actually an ignorant comment. To expect people who are poor, whose country has been conquered, for them to suddenly understand and know who you are, what your experience is, what it's like to be you, what it's like to have your skin tone, your hair texture, your facial features, your fashion sense, and all that. For them to understand who you are as a black woman, of course they're not gonna understand. They're not you. They're from a different culture, sis. So the entitlement is insane. Like I will never understand what it's like to be a white girl from Sweden, just like how a white girl from Sweden wouldn't understand what it's like to be me. That's totally normal. As far as people laughing, give me more details. Did they look at you and point and laugh and say, "Oh my god, she is so ugly? Oh my god, look at her skin. Her skin is so ugly and messed up?" Because if they do, then you have a talking point. Okay, fine. Yes, they're being racist, "Oh, look at her. She's like black and ugly and I'm going to laugh at her because." Okay, yeah, if they're saying stuff like that, then yes, but she didn't say that. She simply said, "People laughed at me." And it's like, and also, even if people did laugh at you, let's say somebody did actually look at her and call her the N-word and laugh and stuff like that. Okay. So are you gonna not travel now? Are you just gonna stay in the country that you're in? Because I know for me personally, guess what? I'm not gonna let a fucking racist person stop me from living my best life, baby. I'm gonna go wherever the fuck I want. This is my world. It's my money. My money works wherever I want it to work. I can go wherever the fuck I want. This is my world. This is my world just as much as it is anybody else's. So if I'm so insecure and so weak minded to the point where someone laughing makes me want to leave a whole fucking country, bitch, these are my dreams. I can live wherever the hell I want to live. I can go to whatever country I want to go to just because those ignorant ass people can't afford to leave wherever they're from. And just because they're so ignorant to where they're laughing at someone who was rich enough to be able to travel to a place like Phuket, that's not my problem, boo. That's their problem. So the fact that she would even allow this to get her riled up enough to create a TikTok is insane to me. Here on this channel, all of us have had experiences with people laughing at us, making fun of our outfits or our makeup or whatever. That's a part of everyday life. This girl should know. This girl has pretty privilege. She's a pretty unambiguous woman. So she should know, as a woman who already has pretty privilege, she should know that people are going to laugh at her and make fun of her no matter what she does out of jealousy. How do you know that they were laughing because they're racist as opposed to laughing because they're haters and jealous? You know what I mean? So the fact that she's automatically associating laughter, and by the way, she didn't say that they even pointed and said anything about her skin tone. She could have just been misconstruing it. Like, you know how sometimes people laugh at the wrong time and then you look at them and you're like, they must be laughing at me. She didn't even give any context to where I even believe necessarily that they were laughing and pointing, but I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm just going to say that, okay, let's pretend that they said something racist in their language and then they were pointing and laughing. Even so, okay, does that mean that, like, you shouldn't travel now? Like, what's the point of putting this on TikTok? Are you trying to tell dark-skinned women you're not allowed to go to Phuket because people might laugh at you? Is your sense of identity so fragile to the point where all it takes is laughter for all of your confidence to be shattered? People are probably laughing at you on TikTok right now posting about this. People could be laughing at you when you do hair videos, when you do your makeup. Anytime that you walk down the street, someone could be pointing and laughing at you.
Markets in Phuket, people are literally taking their phones out, video recording me. People are literally taking pictures of me.
So she's talking about people taking photos and videos of her. So this is something that I've actually been around as well. Sometimes people who come from Asian countries where they're not exposed to people of other backgrounds, yes, sometimes they will try to take pictures with you. So, like, for example, I actually used to work at a news station. There was one lady there. There was one lady at the news station. She had blonde hair and blue eyes. She was very white. And they were doing the same thing. They weren't from Thailand. I don't remember what country they were from, but they were from an Asian country and they had never been to the United States. And they were asking to take pictures with her. My brother, he actually has gone to, I think it was like Japan. And same thing happened to my brother where people were like treating him special, but it was more like they were putting him on a pedestal, saying that he had a phenotype kind of like Drake or somebody like that, wanting to take pictures with him. So once again, automatically equating people looking at you in awe and kind of staring at your beauty, because that's what I view that as. I view that as the person's probably admiring her beauty. This girl, she has pretty privilege. So in my eyes, the first thing I'm thinking is, oh, they're probably looking at her because they think she's pretty, not because her dark skin is ugly. So do you see how deep the inferiority complex is to the point where it's automatically like, oh, they must think I'm ugly and it's because I'm dark skinned. The person didn't talk to me and they talked to my light skinned friends. Oh, it's because I'm dark skinned. They asked to take a picture with me because they're poor and have never been able to go to any other places. Oh, it must be because I'm dark skinned. So do you see how it's like automatically equating failure with being dark skinned and equating not fitting in or standing out with, like, they think your dark skin is inferior?
I got a little giggle here and there from like very few Thai people, but most of the ignorance did come from tourists. And I'm very mad at myself that I allowed that to get to me, but it will get to you. And I allowed it to get to me. But I'd like to say that Chiang Mai really changed that experience for me. I felt nothing but love here. I felt welcomed here. I felt no different than anybody here. And I stayed here about 7 days.
So I've noticed that there is this desperation so far in these three women. There's this desperation to want to fit in, but they don't understand that being put on a pedestal means that people are singling you out. So being put on a pedestal means that you stand out, right? It means you're standing out from the crowd. So it's like, which one is it? Which one do you want? Do you want to stand out? Do you want to be treated like a celebrity? Because this girl actually sounds like she's getting a positive celebrity treatment. Like, oh, I'm looking at her, she's pretty, or let me take pictures. I've never seen a beautiful, tall black woman, so I'm kind of in awe of her beauty. So it's like, which one is it? Do you want the pedestal, which means standing out, or do you want to blend in and be invisible? Do you want visibility or not? Do you want the spotlight or not? Welcome to the spotlight. That's what it's like. You're going to get people spotlighting you, as in taking pictures. I've had people take pictures of my hair in America at my HBCU. I've had people take pictures of my hair trying to make fun of it, but I don't get mad. If anything, I'm like, oh, they're just jealous because my hair looks really cute for a fashion show. That's why they're taking pictures of it, because they haven't seen a hairstyle like mine. So they're jealous and trying to take a picture, making fun of it, hoping that I will be insecure because that's how inferior they feel to me because I'm the star. So which one is it? Do you want to be the star and do you want to deal with what comes with the spotlight, which includes people potentially laughing at you and making fun of you? Or do you want to blend in and be invisible and nobody notices you, nobody compliments you, nobody treats you special? Which one is it? Which one do you want? So do you see how even this girl here as well, she's also giving the damned if you do, damned if you don't talking point. It's like, okay, you wanted to blend in, but then I've got other unambiguous women saying that blending in is bad. They don't want that. They want the spotlight. They want to be promoted. They want the pedestal.
I'll continue to share my experiences with you while during my journey to Thailand, and I'll also share where I went, where I stayed in Chiang Mai. So follow me for more.
Okay, so this is a TikTok. It says dark skinned girls with small features. So she's coming for dark skin exoticals. Dark skinned girls with small features that wear wigs and heavy makeup when they hear dark skinned women spreading awareness about colorism. And then she's like showing herself getting an attitude. So she's basically implying that dark skinned exoticals have an attitude and they don't care about colorism. A lot of people think that dark skinned women can't benefit from either featurism or texturism, and they can. And this TikTok is proof of this because this woman is saying she basically feels left out. What she feels ostracized by the dark skinned exoticals because they don't understand her plight. And I mean, she is right that they don't understand what it's like to look unambiguous. It's because those dark skinned women who look like Sinead, and I will put a picture up of her to show what a dark skinned woman with small features looks like. Yeah, they don't have the same experience because they still look ambiguous. Dark skin does not equal automatically looking unambiguous. And this TikTok is actually proof that my talking point is correct. But also, how is that colorism though? It's like if you guys are both dark skinned and she has different features and stuff, like how is it colorist that she doesn't understand you? So do you see how even dark skin exoticals are being called colorist? So because somebody like Sinead, because she has keener features and she wouldn't necessarily understand you, now Sinead would be a colorist as well because she doesn't have the same traumas that you have.
Hit dogs holler. They is hollering in her comments. Dark-skinned women who are on the better half of colorism often.
Okay, so this woman's responding to the last one saying that there are dark skinned women who are on the better half of colorism. So Sunate and dark skinned women with keen features, they would face colorism, but they don't face texturism or featurism. Like let's say they have silky hair or something like that. So saying that they're benefiting from colorism is actually incorrect. So within the first 2 seconds of her TikTok, she's already wrong because somebody who looks like Sinead Gide can still experience colorism. But let's continue.
Deny colorism because they are the exception to the rule. That's the whole when a guy's like, oh, you're beautiful. I don't usually like dark skinned girls, but you're so they take that and they're like, oh yeah, I am beautiful. Colorism doesn't exist because you like me, but you have a looser hair texture, or you know what I mean, or you have smaller features like myself. And that does not deny colorism.
Just because a dark skinned exotical gets a compliment does not mean that she's denying colorism. So that's another incorrect talking point from this girl's TikTok.
People just don't like. I've seen brown skinned women, like women who are in between, be called dark skinned because they have a bigger nose or bigger lips.
And that's correct. I mean, people do judge you. People perceive your skin tone based on your facial features and hair texture. Like I've noticed that if you have broader West African features, people tend to think you're darker than you are. And then if you have keener features, people tend to think that you're lighter. Or they refuse to call you dark skin, like they will just call you brown or brown skin because they have to create a new category for you in their minds and they don't realize that that's what they're doing.
People are featurist and colorist. And just because you are in the better half of that, where you're not experiencing all of the hits, doesn't mean you deny colorism. Because I've been
Also, have you ever noticed how a lot of unambiguous women, because I'm assuming this woman, she's more on the unambiguous side from her talking point. She relates more to the unambiguous, like a Chrissy experience is more relatable to her based on her talking point. So why should exoticals, why should dark skin exoticals care about your plight if you don't care about theirs? Why should we care about what you have to say if you minimize our experiences? So I noticed that Chrissy, she accuses me of minimizing the experiences of unambiguous Black women. Okay, well, if you minimize the experiences of exoticals, don't get mad if I minimize yours. Don't get mad if I minimize yours as well. And also, I actually do think that all of these experiences are nothing in comparison to actual bigger social justice issues. So if that makes me a minimizer, then so be it. But in the case of this woman on this TikTok here, like, why should dark skin exoticals stick up for you if you don't want to stick up for them?
on both sides. I've been on the side where people were constantly like on me, like, you're ugly, you're this, you're that, you're that. And I've also been on the side where people are like, oh, you're the exception to the rule. She ain't lying, y'all, and y'all is hollering. Be quiet.
I'm a dark-skinned girl. Of course I could tell whether you really like Black girls or not just by looking you in your eyes.
She says, I'm a dark skinned girl. Of course, I can tell whether you like Black girls by looking in your eyes. That's got to be the most idiotic statement I've ever heard in my life. So you're judging people based on their looks, you're judging their sexual preferences based on how they look. But if somebody were to look at you and say, oh, she likes dogs, you would probably call them racist. So do you see how a lot of women they're actually racist and they don't even realize it? They're actually prejudiced. Looking at someone in their eyes and judging who they date, that's actually a form of prejudice because you're prejudging them without knowing them.
I'm a dark-skinned girl. Of course, being in elementary school felt like being Black in the 1800s.
She said being a Black girl in elementary school felt like the 1800s. For those of you who are not from the United States, during the 1800s is when slavery was actually happening. And it's like, how deep does your inferiority complex go to the point where you're associating simply being in elementary school with slavery? What is it with the obsession with randomly bringing up slavery, constantly bringing up slavery? No, sis, you're probably like a Gen Z or a millennial. Being in elementary school with Wi-Fi and an iPhone and all that was probably not like being an actual slave. That's actually disrespectful to the real slaves. That's actually disrespectful to your own ancestors that actually were slaves in the 1800s. There's not even a comparison. You were not picking cotton. You've never picked cotton a day in your life. You've never been whipped or beaten or tarred and feathered a day in your life. So, do you see the incredible inferiority complex jumping out?
I'm a dark-skinned girl. Of course, I'm 5,000 different shades of dark skin depending on the lighting. I'm a dark-skinned girl. Of course, I just mind my business on social media, scroll through and see a bunch of think pieces about how dark-skinned women are so aggressive, RXD, and light-skinned women are beanie babies.
So now she's saying that her algorithm is colorist, basically. Sis, your algorithm depends on what you click on. So if you're male centered and following a bunch of like red pill types of guys or guys that hate Black women and stuff, that's your fault for following those guys. Nobody told you to follow them. Nobody told you to follow all those light skinned women. Nobody told Black women to follow Ekane. And by the way, Ekane has gained over 100,000 subscribers on TikTok ever since her being called colorist. I'm probably going to do a video about that one of these days. So this is why I say this is fake outrage. So you'll be calling other people colorists while following colorists. Oh, my whole algorithm is colorist. Okay, then that means that you don't care about colorism. You follow colorists. You listen to Chris Brown. You watch Baddies and Zeus and whatever, Love and Hip Hop or whatever those shows are, and then you complain. You follow the music industry. You support music industries that promote light skinned artists and not dark skinned ones. So don't get mad at random light skinned women. Don't get mad at the algorithm. Get mad at yourself for keeping yourself at the bottom and placing yourself on the bottom.
I'm a dark skinned girl. Of course my skin glows. I'm a dark skinned girl. Of course old ass men are gonna come up to me and call me Nubian queen. I'm a dark skinned girl. Of course I get called pretty for a dark skin. It's okay if you find me attractive, even though you don't like black women. No need for the disclaimer, baby. Thank you.
So she's talking about the pretty for a dark skin comment. I've noticed that that's more common in the black community, but since she's bringing this up, once again to the divestors, what are you going to do when you date a non-black man and you're the first black woman that he's ever dated? Or, you know, if black women were not his preference and then suddenly because he met you, he likes you, then what are you going to think? Like if you have this mindset of, hey, he's never dated a dark skin and like he suddenly thinks I'm pretty or he was never really attracted to dark skins until me, what are you going to do in that scenario with the divestment? Because only about I think it's 5% or even less than that marry interracially, and this is amongst all the groups. We did a video about that. So what are you going to do? Are you going to get with a quote unquote colorist black man or are you going to get with a quote unquote colorist non-black man? Because if being the first dark skin that he's attracted to is colorist, then that means you're eliminating a lot of people from your dating pool and all that. Like if you care about dating, this is more of a decentering men channel, but just saying.
I'm a dark skinned girl. Of course I'm going to be minding my business in La La Land, whoop-de-doo, and someone gonna think I have an attitude. I'm a dark skinned girl. Of course I like to use black lip liner because the browns that all the girlies use is my skin tone. I'm a dark skinned girl.
Wait, she said she's going to use a black lip liner because all the browns that the other girls use are her colors. Okay, so who's the other girls? Who are these other girls that you're following? What do you mean by all the other girls? Why are you even paying attention to all the other girls and what color lip liner they use and comparing yourself to their makeup shades and saying, well, you use my shade and that's the wrong shade. I need to use black. I had no idea until just now. I was today years old when I learned that dark skinned black women use black lip liner. Like, I have no idea actually what color lip liner women of other skin tones use because I don't even look up makeup videos of women who are not my skin tone. I have no idea who the most famous dark skin makeup artists are right now. Well, I mean, I know who Jackie Aina is. That's about it. I don't even search when I'm looking for a tutorial. I don't even really search for women who have different skin tones than me. So the fact that she knows light-skinned women's lip liner shade is incredible to me. That's incredible. I don't know what color white girls use for lip liner. What color do they use? I don't know. What color does Taylor Swift use? If I use a lip liner, I use like a berry color. I'll use like a burgundy or like red or something like that. I actually don't use brown. I look better in berry colors. So yeah, I have no idea what color lips other skin tones of women have. Never even thought about it. So the fact that she knows that and knows the colored lips that other girls use, and by the way, she's actually wrong because I'm light skinned. I don't use brown lip liner. So she was actually wrong. Oh, all the other lip liners that everybody else uses are my color brown. No, they're not. I just proved you wrong right there. I don't think I've ever bought a brown lip liner. So the fact that some of these women are meticulously studying the lip colors of women of other skin tones, that's incredible to me.
Of course I have a beautiful smile. I'm a dark skinned girl. Of course, every little dark skinned black girl I see, I'm going to make sure to call her beautiful so this world does not tear her down and make her think anything less of herself.
When it comes to dark skinned women, we are.
Okay, this girl is light skinned in my opinion, but maybe I know skin tone is subjective. So maybe she's saying dark skinned in comparison to white women. But let's let her finish.
Are treated differently when we go out. It doesn't just come down to how well spoken we are. It's not just about that. There is this need to be hyper feminine or to be really put together.
Okay, so she's admitting that she feels like dark skinned women have a need to be hyper feminine. Isn't that interesting? Because I actually didn't realize that we had quote unquote feminine privilege. I didn't realize that Exoticals had feminine privilege until I came onto YouTube and people were associating my channel with me being feminine or like with my speaking voice and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting how we've got this girl saying that basically if you're darker, you're going to feel a need to be more feminine.
Because it's just how it is in a lot of places, and it could differ from place to place, but from what I've experienced, like my lighter skinned friends don't really get treated the same, and definitely if you're talking about like another race, they're definitely not treated the same way.
Okay, so she's saying that her friends who are lighter than her are not treated the same, yet she fails to provide any examples of how they are not treated the same and how that relates to skin tone. So she's basing colorism on shoulda, coulda, wouldas, just like how I said, oh, if I would have been lighter, I would have been treated differently. Oh, they could have spoken to me at the table, but instead they spoke to my light skinned friends. So do you see what I mean about inferiority complexes? And like I said, I consider this girl to actually be very light skinned, but maybe she's comparing herself to white people. I don't know what country she's in. So yeah.
That I am when I go places. I mean, you can even just look at being in LA and just seeing that, like,
Oh, okay. She's in Los Angeles. So yeah, she's definitely comparing herself to non black people, generally speaking.
dark skinned women.
For those of you who don't know, Los Angeles or California, their population is 95% non black. So within that 5%, that's including, maybe like a Meghan Markle type of mixed race person. So the population of any kind of black, mixed black or unambiguous, it's very, very small.
Women aren't necessarily like checked for as much, and I know a lot of girls on this app talk about that when it comes to the dating scene as well. So I just think it's important to that.
Okay, so notice how she brought up men once again. She said girls talk about that when it comes to the dating scene. A man does not have to date you in order to prove that he's not colorist. Okay, so I don't know if she's talking about black men being colorist, white men. I'm assuming she's talking about non black men though, because she's in California. So yeah, a white guy, he doesn't have to date you in order to prove that he's not colorist.
Validate the experiences of others, and to just keep in mind that like not everybody has the same experience. Like I think I come off very professional when I speak and very put together even if I do work.
I just thought of something. If she identifies as dark skinned, is there a possibility that she is potentially sitting in front of like super, super bright lighting or, doing something like that? And that's why she looks extremely light skinned. Has anyone else noticed that? How a lot of unambiguous women with inferiority complexes, they will sit in front of the lightest, brightest lights, and then they will also sit in front of the sun to look as light skinned as possible. And then they will take their pictures for their dating profiles and stuff. And I've even heard stories of guys saying to women, oh, I thought you were light skinned because that's how extreme they are with lightening their photos or like trying to sit under this lighting so they can appear as light skinned as possible. Has anyone else thought about that? I'm not saying that that's what this girl is doing, but I just randomly thought about that.
Wear sweatpants, but that doesn't take away from the fact that somebody will just like disrespect me when I'm in public. um
So then she says people will disrespect her when she's in public, but she doesn't name any examples. If people are disrespecting you in public because of their skin tone, tell me what they said about your skin tone. Colorism is when you're specifically disparaging someone because of skin tone. So if you don't have any proof of something that somebody said or did because of your skin tone, then it's not colorism. You can't prove that it's colorism.
so yeah, I'm just I'm just here speaking for myself and on behalf of all of the other dark skinned girls who just kind of feel, a little left out sometimes. It can be rough out there. So I'm just here to really validate their experience and just kind of share my story as well.
Okay, this one says, why do dark skinned women have to look like high maintenance black Barbies to be considered pretty? Newsflash, they don't. You think that you have to look like a high maintenance black Barbie to be considered pretty. You associate beauty with having long straight hair and the lashes and whatever else to cover up your 4C hair and all that. That's your own mindset. If this is what you truly believe, if you believe that dark-skinned women have to look like high maintenance black Barbies, and I'm thinking of the classic black Barbies with straight hair and all that, yeah, your beauty standard is dark skin exoticals. That's why. That's why you think you have to look like a high maintenance black Barbie. It's because your actual beauty standard is Justine Skye, who was born looking like that. That's all that means. It just means that dark skin exoticals are your beauty standard. This girl looks mixed to me, honestly, but I could be wrong. It's just her face. She reminds me of a lot of Pacific Islanders that I know, but I will let her continue.
True. And it's like especially frustrating because everybody else get to be mixed. I'ma just be honest. I'll look at every other type of woman and it's like no one expects them to do nearly as much. You could take a dark-skinned black woman and a light-skinned black woman or a woman from any other race who have the exact same body shape, the exact same features, and everyone's gonna call the dark-skinned woman ugly.
Who's everyone? And who are you basing your ugly or pretty, who are you basing that on? She said everyone's going to call the dark skinned woman ugly, which is actually false. That's an exaggeration. Everyone, you're telling me all 7 billion people in this world think that dark skinned women are ugly? That's an exaggeration. That's false. That's an internalized inferiority complex.
Like I really feel like to be considered pretty, you have to be the black Barbie like this
Okay, the girl said she feels like to be considered pretty, you have to really be the black Barbie. So I'm just going to assume that maybe her hair is not natural or not real. Maybe she has 4C hair or something. I don't know. Her face looks a little ambiguous to me, but I'm probably wrong, or I'm guessing I'm wrong. But if she believes that you have to look like a black Barbie, aka dark skin with straighter hair, that just means that your beauty standard is a dark skin exotical. That's all that means. It means that your beauty standard is Ethiopians or Afro-Brazilian dark-skinned women or Dominican dark-skinned mixed women and, those Afro-native mixed women like Chili from TLC and all that. Your beauty standard is like a dark-skinned Pacific Islander mixed woman. That's what that means. That's why you feel like you have to look like a Barbie. It's because you're a 4C hair. You feel like your hair texture is keeping you from meeting your internalized beauty standard. That's not colorism. That's texturism. That's actually internalized texturism. It's not texturism that others are putting on you. That's your internalized texturism.
Creator said, or you have to be like overly sexual. Like
She's also saying she feels like if you're dark skinned, you have to be overly sexual. Who told you that? Who told you that? Where are you getting these things from? Where are you getting these random stereotypes from? Because there are plenty of dark skinned women who are not overly sexual. They are very modest and classy and whatever, and they live their best lives. And they have 4C hair, and they're dark skinned, and they have pretty privilege. And you clearly feel like you don't, and that's not their problem. So, once again, that's your internalized issue.
yabbles out, peach out, everything out. And then when you do the second one, you're just called dirty. Like I've just accepted the fact I'll never be society's beauty standard.
She says that she'll never be society's beauty standard. Who is society? You mean everyone in the whole world? Society just means people. So are you talking about every person in the whole world? All 7 billion people? You'll never be their beauty standard? Nobody will ever be the beauty standard of 7 billion people. No one. So the fact that you feel like 7 billion people need to validate your beauty in order for you to feel beautiful, that's an incredible inferiority complex.
because I'm dark skinned. And it even be like a specific type of dark skin. Like you got to be that like beautiful, dark, rich complexion. When you just have like dark skin like mine, like maybe a little bit deeper, you just considered mid your whole life. And
that was a disgustingly colorist comment. She literally just said, if you have her skin tone or a little bit deeper, you're going to be considered mid. That's false. There are plenty of women who have her exact skin tone who are considered beautiful. So notice how she says nothing about the fact that she is potentially 300 pounds. She says nothing about the fact that maybe the culture or environment she's in, because this woman, she really does not look African American to me. She could be a dark skinned woman of a Pacific Islander background or Mexican or something else. But it's like, it has nothing to do with any of that. You're telling me that your dark skin is the reason that people think you're mid? It's not. There are plenty of women with that skin tone that are considered beautiful.
And it's just frustrating because who has the resources and the time to be looking like a Barbie every time you leave the fucking house? I don't. Anyway, all dark skin is fine. I don't give a fuck what y'all say.
Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.